My name is Soren Harwick, and I went to that cabin because I was tired of running from things I couldn't explain. After the death of my sister, Lily, I'd done nothing but run, from city to city, job to job, relationship to relationship, anything, to escape the silence of her absence. I thought maybe the mountains would help. A week alone in a small cabin, with no distractions. The first few days were peaceful. I stayed off my phone. I went hiking. I tried to think of nothing, but when I started hearing the echoes, I realized that nothing was going to work. It started softly at first, just whispers, voices faint and far away, like they were carried on the wind. But the thing is, the wind didn't make those sounds. On the fourth night, it got worse. I was lying in bed, trying to sleep, when I heard the door creak open. I froze, heart hammering in my chest. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, I heard it, a voice, Lily's voice. It whispered, soft and clear, "Soren, you're not alone." I leaped up, turning on the lights. The room was empty. No door was open, but when I looked out the window, I saw a figure standing by the tree line, a dark silhouette, unmoving. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't tell who it was, too far, too still. I didn't go out. I didn't dare. But the voice came again, louder this time. "Soren, come to me." It sounded like Lily, but it wasn't. I could feel it, deep in my bones. Something was wrong. Something had used her voice. The next day, I tried to leave. I packed everything into the car, but the engine wouldn't start. Dead battery, I thought. So I walked to the nearest town, 4 miles. But when I came back, the cabin was ... different. The door was wide open, the lights flickering on and off. I entered cautiously. There was no sign of forced entry, but something was off. And there on the floor, in front of the fireplace, was a doll. Its eyes were too big, its limbs too stiff. The name tag on it said, Lily. I felt my blood run cold. I picked it up and threw it outside. That night, the whispers grew louder. There was something else now. Footsteps, slow, dragging, like someone was walking behind me. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I saw footprints outside the cabin, fresh, muddy, leading into the woods. I followed them. They led to a haloa, large, sunken area, with nothing but the faint smell of decay. Then, I heard it, a soft, childlike giggle. I turned, heart pounding. There, she was. Lily, her face twisted, eyes wide open, smile far too big. Empty. She took a step forward, and I could see now her body was cracked, like porcelain. Each step she took left a trail of dirt and moss. She whispered again, "Soren, you shouldn't have left me." I didn't wait to hear more. I ran. The last thing I remember before blacking out was her laughter. When I woke up, I was back at the cabin, alone. But the whispers didn't stop. They never stopped. Now, I hear them everywhere I go. Lily's voice, and something else, something behind her. A deep, malevolent echo, waiting. My name is Vanek Harlow, and 3 nights ago, I played a game I should have never agreed to. I was invited by my old college friend Miles to a remote cabin for a guy's weekend. No tech, no stress, just beer and stories. There were 5 of us, me, Miles, Jude, Tanner, and Eli. The place was buried in the woods, a 1-floor structure surrounded by thick pine and silence. On the second night, Miles got drunk and suggested we play the lantern game. He said he learned it from a guy in Romania. Said it was just for laughs. Here's how it went. One person hides an old lantern in the woods while the rest wait inside. When the person returns, we each go out alone to find it. If we bring it back, we win. If we fail, ... Well, Miles never said what happened. Eli went first. He was gone 30 minutes. When he came back, he looked weird, pale, quiet. Next was Jude. He never came back. We waited, called his name. No answer. Tanner went to look for him, came back running, breathless. There's someone else out there, he gasped. But it's not Jude. Miles laughed. That's part of the game. When I asked what he meant, he shrugged. They say if you take the lantern without asking, it follows you back. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, Miles was missing. So was Tanner. We found the lantern inside the cabin, lit though no one had touched it. Eli sat in the corner, rocking, whispering something over and over. Don't look at its face. I decided to leave. I made it 20 feet into the woods when I heard a voice behind me, soft, delicate. Vanek, you forgot the lantern. I turned. There it was. Not a person, not even close. It had Miles's mouth, Jude's eyes, and something else. Something that grinned wrong, like it was trying to remember how humans smile. I ran, didn't stop until the sun rose. The others were never found. Now, at night, I hear the soft hiss of a lantern flame outside my window, and sometimes, a voice calls gently from the darkness. Your turn, Vanek. My name is Becklin Marr, and I never believed in family curses until I inherited one. The cabin belonged to my great-uncle Rhodes. He was a recluse, the kind who spoke in riddles and claimed the forest had a heartbeat. When he died, the cabin was left to me. No one else wanted it. I went up to sign some paperwork, clean things out, and maybe stay a night or two. It was remote, no cell service, no neighbors, and the path leading in was more animal trail than road. The first thing I noticed was the lantern. An old rusted oil lantern hanging from a crooked nail on the porch. It wasn't lit, yet somehow, every night after sundown, it glowed faintly. I assumed some kind of chemical reaction or old fuel until I realized there was no fuel inside. On my third night, I heard someone walking outside. Soft steps in the snow. I peeked out the window. Through the frost, I saw a small figure standing by the edge of the trees, no taller than a child, holding an old lantern. His face was shadowed. Still, he never came closer, just stood there, watching. In the morning, no footprints. I mentioned it to the local clerk when I went into town. Her face paled. You saw the lantern boy, she whispered. He comes when you're marked. I asked what that meant, but she wouldn't say more. That night, I left the porch lantern where it was and locked the door. At 1:13 a.m., I woke up. Two lights spilling through the cracks. The lantern on the porch was blazing now, brighter than oil could burn. Shadows danced across the walls, inside figures, dozens of them, flickering like firelight illusions. Then I saw the boy Egan inside the cabin. He stood in the corner, silent, holding the same lantern. His clothes were old, torn, wet. His skin, gray-blue, like he'd been pulled from a lake. He didn't blink, just whispered, "It's your turn now." I screamed. He vanished. The lantern went dark. Next morning, I packed. As I reached my car, I saw it. The lantern, sitting on the hood. I threw it into the woods and drove off. But that night, in my apartment miles from the cabin, the light came back. I walked into my kitchen and found the lantern on my table, lit, glowing, waiting, and then came the tapping. On the glass, tiny fingers. A child's silhouette on the other side of my balcony door. I moved, states away. But the lantern always finds me. It shows up near dark, on buses, in hotel drawers. I even saw it once, in a mirror, hanging behind me. They say the lantern boy drowned, and whoever sees him must take his place. I don't know how long I've got left, but when the lantern lights, I lock every door and whisper to the shadows, "Not tonight." My name is Ellis Crane, and I've never liked the cold. So when my cousin offered me his cabin in Vermont for a week, I almost declined. But after my burnout at the agency and a panic attack during a client pitch, I needed to unplug. No clients, no deadlines, Just snow, silence, and sleep. The place was simple. One floor, single bed, fireplace, dead center. What stuck out was the chimney. It was massive. Too big for the cabin's size. Thick, dark bricks stretching higher than the roof. Itself. The first night, I made a fire. The wood hissed like it was wet, but it caught eventually. I curled up on the couch with a blanket and watched the flames dance. Then, just as I was drifting off, I heard it. A voice inside the chimney, faint, like someone whispering down through the flue. I sat up. It came again, louder this time, low, gravelly. Is someone there? I called out, trying to keep it together. No reply, just crackling wood. I blamed it on the wind and went to bed. The next night, I heard it again. This time, the whisper came with a rhythm, a pattern, like someone reciting something from memory. I grabbed my phone and recorded the sound. When I played it back, I heard something I hadn't noticed before. Second voice, quieter than the first, repeating certain words, mocking them. Come down, it said. Come see. I didn't sleep that night. On the third day, I examined the chimney from the outside. No birds, no nests, no cracks, just thick brick and an iron flue cover. But inside, I noticed something new. Scratches in the soot lining the interior walls, like fingernails. Desperate, deep. That night, I left the fire UNLIT. At 1:06 a.m., I heard the iron flue open. No wind, no draft, just a slow, metallic creak. Then, whispering. One voice, not too many. They were arguing, fighting, then laughing, and then they said my name. Not close, not loud, but clearly. I backed away from the fireplace. Suddenly, the fire lit itself. What I hadn't stacked ignited. The flames turned blue, then green. Smoke poured out, not up, but down from the chimney, swirling into the room like fog. Inside the smoke, I saw them, faces, dozens of them, pale, ash-covered, eyes wide with hunger or terror. I couldn't tell which. One of them mouthed, "Let us back." I ran. I tried the door. It wouldn't budge. Windows nailed shut. My phone dead. The fire roared behind me. Then the chimney screamed. A howl of voices, overlapping, crying, begging, accusing. I dropped to the floor and covered my ears. When it stopped, the fire was out. The room was cold again, and the flue welded shut from the inside. I left that morning, breaking a window, to escape later. I searched the property records. Found one article, 1973. Family of 6 dies in chimney collapse. All remains found inside shaft. No funeral, no closure, just ... lost in smoke. And sometimes, on cold nights, I swear I still hear them whispering from the walls. My name is Alira Dunn, and I don't scare easily. I've spent my life restoring forgotten places, abandoned barns, crumbling lighthouses, off-the-grid cabins. Most people see decay. I see stories waiting to be told again. When I bought the old Braxton cabin deep in the Vermont woods, I thought I was rescuing history. But some stories should stay buried. The structure was rough, roof caved in, moss thick as carpet, and a door hanging by one hinge. But beneath it, rot. The bones were solid. The place had a kind of haunted charm I couldn't resist. First thing I noticed was the cellar door. It was padlocked, thick iron, old, but not rusted. Almost maintained. The key wasn't anywhere in the house. I figured I'd bust it open later. Once the rest of the place was cleaned, over the next few days, weird things began piling up. My phone kept restarting. Tools vanished from where I left them. At night, I'd hear creaks beneath the floor, like someone walking slowly in circles under my bed. I blamed the cabin's age. Wood settles, animals scurry. That's normal. Then came the scratching. It started the 5th night. Not loud, just faint, like nails dragging along stone. It came from beneath the floor, right above the cellar. I stood over the trapdoor with my flashlight, listening. It stopped. The next morning I noticed something strange. The cellar lock looked newer, shinier, like it had been replaced. I didn't do that. No one else should have been there. I decided to remove it. I brought my crowbar and chisel, wedged them under the hasp, and pried. The lock didn't break, but the cabin groaned, loudly, like something was straining to hold its breath. That night, the scratching turned into knocking. One knock every 10 seconds, like a heartbeat, from inside the cellar. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I packed my things. I was ready to leave, call it a loss. But when I stepped outside, everything was gone. My car, my tools, my bags. The clearing around the cabin had grown. Trees farther away. Sky darker. Air heavier. The cabin wasn't letting me go. I went back in, trembling, and heard whispering behind the walls. Just one word. Down. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a hammer and smashed the lock off. The trapdoor creaked open slowly, revealing a steep staircase into pure black. The air that rose was wet, cold, and smelled like dirt and copper. I went down. The steps groaned, but held. My flashlight barely pierced the dark. I reached a stone floor, walls dripping with moisture, and in the center, chained to the wall, was a person. No, something shaped like a person. It was pale, translucent, and its eyes were covered with a cloth soaked in something black. Its mouth was stitched shut with wire. But I swear to you, Elira Dunn, of rational mind and steady hand, it smiled when it heard me. I turned to run, but the stairs were gone. The cellar door above was bricked over. Now I live down here. I don't eat. I don't drink. I don't breathe the same way anymore. The thing beside me doesn't speak, but I feel it, sharing thoughts, memories. I was the latest one who opened the door. I won't be the last, because the cabin's still out there, waiting to be bought again. My name is Ronan Wexley, and I haven't spoken to anyone in 3 months. Not because I didn't want to, but because no one else is left. I used to be a wilderness guide in Colorado, made my living helping tourists disconnect from their devices and reconnect with nature. The irony, nature's what took them from me. It started with a simple trip for clients Gareth, Isla, Devin, and Paige. We were supposed to hike for 2 days and stay in a remote cabin I knew about. No service, no GPS, just maps, firewood, and the chirp of crickets. Everyone loved the idea, said it was exactly what they needed. We reached the cabin just before sundown. It looked the same as I remembered: aged pine walls, moss creeping up the sides, and a door that shrieked like it hadn't been opened in years. Inside, the fireplace was untouched, the bunks were dusty, and everything smelled of rot and sap. They laughed it off, said it was authentic. The first night, nothing strange happened. We made a fire, told stories, drank cheap whiskey. But sometime past midnight, I heard whispering outside the cabin, like someone was circling it, dragging their voice around the walls. I thought it might be the wind, or a fox, so I checked. Nothing. But the next morning, Gareth swore he saw someone watching us from the tree line. Black coat, no face, he muttered, refusing breakfast. I hiked the perimeter. No footprints. No sign of anyone but us. That night, the whispers returned louder this time, not just outside, inside the walls. Like the logs themselves were mumbling. Paige sat up in her bunk, pale. It said my name, she whispered. It was inside the wood. I tried to stay calm, play skeptic. It's the wind. Old cabins groan. You're tired. But then Devin started screaming. When we rushed to him, his nose was bleeding, and he kept clawing at the walls, yelling, "Let me out. It wants to burn again, again." By morning, he was gone. The front door stood wide open, his boots still by the fire. No prints, no trail. We wanted to leave. We tried to leave, but every path we took looped us back to the cabin. I even threw a marked rock ahead of us. When we finally gave up and returned, there it was, lying beside the front step. Hila lost it next. She began muttering things none of us understood, some language I've never heard. Her voice changed, low guttural. She started gouging symbols into the wooden floor with her fingernails. We restrained her, but that night, she vanished too. Just like Devin, Dot, and Gareth. He hanged himself with his own belt from the ceiling beam, the one with that deep black burn mark I never noticed until then. Paige and I didn't sleep after that. We sat back to back with knives and lanterns. She held my hand, kept whispering that she didn't want to become part of the wood, but I fell asleep. When I woke, only her boots were left. One by the fire, one outside. Now, it's just me, and I can hear them every night. The voices inside the walls, they call to me. They speak in Paige's voice, Devin's, even Gareth's. They don't beg for help. They invite me to join them. The logs are full now, crammed with faces you can only see in the right light. When the fire pops, they flinch. When the cabin creaks, they sigh. I don't know how long I've been here. I stopped counting the days after the sun started rising from the wrong direction. But I'm still not leaving. The cabin won't let me, and part of me doesn't want to anymore. Not since the walls started whispering my name. My name is Irvon Thorne, and I just wanted silence. After my divorce, I rented a small mountain cabin far from anyone. Just me, the cold air, and the groaning pines. No phone, no people, just peace. The cabin was old, creaky, but charming. Wood stove, rocking chair, bookshelves carved by hand. It smelled of cedar and smoke. I thought I'd found sanctuary, but by the second night, I heard whistling. At first, I thought it was the wind, but wind doesn't follow patterns. It came in bursts for short notes, always the same, almost like a lullaby. It echoed softly from inside the walls. I knocked. Nothing answered. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stuffed towels under the doors, lit every lamp. Still, the whistling continued, now closer, now ... below. The floorboards under my bed felt hollow, so I moved the bed and found a trapdoor. It hadn't been mentioned in the rental listing. Against every survival instinct, I opened it. Inside was a narrow crawl space and, scratched into the wood, "If you hear the song, don't hum along." I slammed it shut and poured bourbon until I passed out in the chair. The next day, I contacted the owner. She sounded ... nervous. "You didn't go under the floor, did you?" I lied. "No," she sighed. "It's probably just the pipes, or birds in the chimney. Don't worry." But that night, I heard someone humming along. The whistling returns for notes, but followed now by a breathy, off-key voice, mimicking it. I froze. Then the voice whispered, "Too late now." And from the crawl space, a hand reached up, gray and boneless, fingers too long, nails tapping the rhythm on the wood. I ran, left the cabin in the middle of the night, and never looked back. But now, no matter where I sleep, I hear the song. 4 soft whistles, then the voice, then the tapping, and worst of all, last night, I caught myself humming along. My name is Callan Rove, and last week, I killed a man. At least, I think I did. Let me explain. It started with a rental, a solo escape, just me, a bottle of bourbon, and a lakefront cabin deep in the pines of Oregon. No Wi-Fi, no distractions, just silence. The ad said Stillwater Cabin, total peace. The first 2 days were quiet. I wrote, I hiked, I drank. At night, I'd sit on the dock, listening to the water lap at the shore, like a sleeping beast. But on the third night, I saw a man staring at me from across the lake. No boat, No cabin there, just trees. He wore old suspenders, bare feet, sunk in the mud, and held something broken, or, when I blinked, he was gone. I laughed it off. Maybe the bourbon was stronger than I thought. The next night, I found muddy footprints on the dock, barefoot, coming from the lake to the cabin. Steps. I didn't sleep. At 3:12 a.m., I heard the screen door creak, then a wet slap on the wooden floorboards. I grabbed the fire poker and stepped into the living room. There he was, soaked, pale, rotting. Water dripped from his jaw as he raised the oar and pointed it at me. "Your turn," he rasped. I swung the poker. It cracked into his shoulder, and he crumpled to the floor with a horrible squelch. When I turned on the light, he was gone. Only the floor remained soaked, and the fire poker was covered in moss. I should have left, I know, but I didn't. Something kept me there. The next day, I found a journal beneath the floorboards. Entries from 1974, all from a man named Clyde talking about a visitor who came from the lake every 7 years, always with the same words, "Your turn." Clyde had killed the man, or thought he did, but the entries stopped abruptly. That night I chained the door, but at 3:12 a.m. exactly, I heard dripping in the hallway. He was back, only now he looked like me. Same shirt, same face, same eyes, just lifeless. "Your turn," he whispered, dropping the oar at my feet. Then he lunged. I stabbed, screamed, fought. In the end, he sank beneath the floorboards, water spreading in all directions. I left at dawn, but I haven't felt right since. My reflection moves slower. I don't cast a shadow near water. And last night, I stood at the edge of my bathtub and whispered, "Your turn." My name is Orrin Pike, and I used to be a skeptic. Ghosts, curses, haunted woods, never bought into any of it. I studied architecture. I believed in straight lines, measured angles, and things that made sense. That's why what happened to me in the Dellinger cabin still haunts every rational part of me. It started with a call from a friend, Jaden. He inherited the place on Old Mountain Cabin up in Maine and asked me to help restore it. "It's falling apart, but the bones are good," he said. I drove up with tools and blueprints. The cabin was ugly, uneven, like it had been built in a hurry, with no plan. The roof slanted wrong, doorways crooked, but the strangest part, on the east wall, the inside had a window. The outside didn't. I checked 3 times. From the inside, there was a tall window beside the fireplace. Glass cracked, frame chipped, but definitely a window. From the outside, just wall, no hole, no outline, no patchwork. I told Jaden. He laughed. "Yeah, that's the window that wasn't there." He said it like it was a joke. But when I asked him about it later, he got weird, stiff, told me to just leave it alone. That night, I stayed in the cabin alone. Jaden had to run to town. I tried reading, but I kept glancing at that damn window. There was nothing out there, just trees. Fog. At 2:47 a.m., I heard tapping, 3 light knocks. I froze. The sound came from the window, the one that wasn't there. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped closer. On the other side of the glass, a man was standing in the woods, pale, bald, barefoot. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at me through the glass. I ran outside. Nobody, but I noticed something else. My own footprints were the only ones in the snow. I went back in. The man was gone, but now the window was clean. No cracks, no dirt, like someone had just wiped it from the outside. I barely slept by morning. Jaden still hadn't returned. I tried to leave, packed up, but the car wouldn't start. Dead. No signal either. I waited till dark, and at exactly 2:47 a.m., tapping this time, louder. I didn't go to the window. I stayed frozen on the floor. The tapping turned into knocking, then pounding. I saw a shape beyond the glass. Not just one man, several. All bald, all barefoot, all staring. They began pressing their faces to the glass. But there wasn't supposed to be glass. The inside of the window began to frost over. From the inside, my breath fogged. The room turned cold. Then came the voices. We remember. Let us in. We built this. I ran to the front door, locked. Tried the back, sealed shut. No escape. The pounding grew louder. I screamed. Then silence. When I turned around, the window was gone. Gone. Just a solid wall, as if it had never been there. But when I went to leave in the morning, Jaden's truck was parked outside, covered in snow, driver's seat empty, engine still warm, no sign of him, no tracks, nothing. I never saw him again. I found one thing in the cabin before I left it. Piece of old paper wedged behind the fireplace. A sketch, blueprint style, a rough drawing of the east wall, and on it, written in faded pencil, "Do not build the window." My name is Merrick Vale, and I manage vacation rentals. We market them as off-grid getaways for digital detoxers. Wood cabins, no Wi-Fi, no neighbors, no distractions. Clients eat that rustic fantasy up. 3 months ago, I added a new property to our roster, a one-room cabin up in the Adirondacks. The owner had vanished years ago. The place was untouched, furniture still inside, even the old guest book on the table. A weird find, sure, but perfect for marketing. I gave it the listing name Cabin Hollow. Our first guest stayed 3 nights. A young couple, Melissa and Grant. They didn't leave a review. I followed up, no reply. I assumed they just moved on. But then it happened again. The next guest didn't respond. Then another. 7 guests total. Each one stayed, each one vanished. From all contact. I should have pulled the listing. I didn't. Money talks louder than worry. I drove up myself, planning to stay 1 night and investigate. The drive was smooth. The trail markers were still there. The cabin looked just like the photos, simple, pine wood walls, a single bed, and that guest book still sitting center on the table. Out of curiosity, I flipped it open. The pages were blank. No sign, no notes, just completely empty. I thought, maybe I brought the wrong book. But the leather cover was clearly aged, same as the photos from our first inspection. I stayed the night at 2:13 a.m. I woke to the sound of a page turning, not wind, not mice. A slow, deliberate flip. I turned on my phone flashlight and aimed it at the table. The guest book was open midway through the pages. I hadn't touched it. I approached, slowly, holding my breath. There, in spidery handwriting, were 2 fresh entries. Melissa Cray, -3 nights, Grant Teller, 3 nights. He flipped back through the book. More names began appearing before my eyes, forming from nothing like ink bleeding into old paper. Marisol Green, 2 nights, Theo Adams, 4 nights, Jasper Lynn, 3 nights. Me, chest tightened. My hands went cold. I slammed the book shut. I packed up and sprinted to my car. It wasn't there. The trail was gone too, replaced by thick trees where the path had been. I ran back to the cabin. Its door was already open. On the table was the GUESTBOOK. It was open to a new page. Merrick Vale. One night he stayed frozen in place for hours, until the sun didn't rise. Time broke. Outside, it's always twilight now. Inside, the clock blinks. 2:13 a.m. Constant. Unchanging. I've tried burning the guest book. It won't catch fire. I buried it, returned to the table. I ripped it to shreds. Next day, it was whole again, and waiting, each night. I hear the door creak open. Footsteps circle the cabin. The guest book turns a page on its own, and new names appear, names I don't know. People who haven't arrived yet. I think the cabin wants us here. I think it feeds off our presence, not our pain, not our screams, just our stay. You might stumble across Cabin Hollow on some rental site, might think it's cute, private, romantic, but if you go, don't write your name in the book, it writes it for you.